Good morning, America. Battering Bermuda. Hurricane Ernesto making landfall on the island with winds over 80 miles per hour and up to 9 inches of rain possible. The fear for life-threatening flash floods and storm surge as America's East Coast feels the effects.
Oh my God!
This house swept out to sea. Alerts for high surf and rip currents as beaches close over hazardous swimming conditions. Samara Theodore tracking it all.
Economic plan. Vice President Kamala Harris details her vision ahead of the Democratic convention. The policies aimed at protecting your pocketbook. Donald Trump taking aim. Plus, why some of his comments about America's highest honors are drawing fire.
Ceasefire hopes. Word that a possible deal in the Israel-Hamas war could be imminent, even as armed Israeli settlers stage a deadly raid on a Palestinian village.
Caught on camera, what police are calling an attempted child kidnapping, a woman hanging off a car trying to save her young niece.
I had one hand on the wheel trying to get a hand off of her.
How the actions of a Good Samaritan helped save the day.
Real estate game changer. The new rules going into effect today. What it means for buyers and sellers. Could it save you some cash on closing? A broker breaks it all down.
And hitting the right note. A violinist shows the world what it's like to pursue your dreams, turning challenges into melodies to inspire others with a musical mission.
Live from ABC News in New York, this is Good Morning America.
Oh, what gorgeous violin music to start this Saturday, huh? Can't wait for that story. Good morning, America. So happy to have Mary Bruce and Will Reeve right here on the desk.
Hello, hello.
Always good to be here.
It's a good morning, and it's a very, very busy morning here ahead, including the lingering Olympic controversy. Romanian gymnast Ana Barbosu now has that bronze medal that was first awarded to Team USA's Jordan Chiles. A lot of people talking about this story.
A lot. And also ahead, an arrest in an alleged scheme to defraud the family of Elvis Presley by auctioning off Graceland, of course, one of the nation's iconic tourist destinations.
But we begin with Hurricane Ernesto battering Bermuda, the storm making landfall at the popular tourist destination early this morning. And take a look at Brooklyn's Coney Island Beach. That's among several in New York City closed due to the storm, creating rip currents along the east coast of the U.S. But let's start in Bermuda with ABC's Morgan Norwood. She is live with the latest. Morgan, good morning to you.
Good morning to you. Yes, Will, this tiny island of Bermuda seeing a rare landfall. Hurricane Ernesto roaring ashore overnight, weakening slightly as a Category 1. But look, we are still feeling its effects. At times, some strong wind gusts, the heavy rain still coming down. I mean, look what the wind did to these palm trees right behind me. It continues to push this water around as well. But the big threat this morning for this island and throughout the rest of the weekend will be that dangerous flash flooding.
Overnight, Hurricane Ernesto making landfall in Bermuda. The eye wall packing its strongest winds and rain, raking over the tiny British island and lashing it with 85-mile-per-hour winds.
Ernesto seriously threatens our community. We are facing an intense and prolonged period of at least 36 hours of sustained winds and dangerous weather conditions.
This marina deserted, most cruise ships pulling out too, as locals and tourists hunker down.
We know what to expect, but the anxiety of being in a foreign place while the storm is coming, that's the unnerving part.
Even though it's churning hundreds of miles offshore, Ernesto is bringing dangerous surf and deadly rip currents to beaches up and down the east coast of the U.S.
Oh my God!
On North Carolina's coast, this entire home cleared out to sea. And at New York's Jones Beach, crews building sand berms to help keep the waves at bay. The city already shutting down several beaches for safety.
And back here in Bermuda, there are more than 25,000 customers without power. But look, with the storm essentially crawling across the island at standstill right now, it could be some time before crews are able to get those bucket trucks in the air and get the lights back on for so many customers here. Will?
That slow-moving storm, always dangerous. Morgan, thank you for that. And let's go to Samara Theodore now for the latest on the storm track and those rip current threats along the east coast of the United States. Samara, good morning.
Good morning, Will. Yeah, so this is a slow-moving system at about 9 miles per hour. Wind gusts up to 105 miles per hour. So Bermuda is in the thick of it. They could see 6 to 9 inches of rain, which could lead to flash flooding. And of course, we see the destructive winds with a storm like this. So where does it go next? Ernesto will continue its trajectory north-northeast, passing Newfoundland, by Monday night, starting to really diminish in strength. Meanwhile, the major impacts on the U.S. coastline are going to be high surf, waves up to 8 feet, and this high rip current risk could last for the next few days. So if you are planning any vacations along the eastern seaboard, just keep that in mind. Safety comes first. Gio?
All right, Samara, we'll check back in with you soon. Thank you so much. But first now, we're going to turn to the race for the White House. Both Vice President Harris and former President Trump are turning their attention to the key swing state of Pennsylvania. And ABC's Jay O'Brien joins us now from Chicago, the site of next week's Democratic National Convention. Good morning, Jay.
Gio, good morning. Just days away from Democrats taking center stage here in Chicago, both the Harris and Trump campaigns are barnstorming the must-win battleground state of Pennsylvania, delivering their dueling visions on a key issue for voters, the economy. This morning, both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump barnstorming the key battleground state of Pennsylvania. Harris and her new running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, beginning a bus tour in Pittsburgh tomorrow.
Hello, family and friends.
Fresh off the vice president laying out her economic plan in the first major policy speech of her just weeks-old campaign.
Compare my plan with what Donald Trump intends to do. He plans to give billionaires massive tax cuts year after year. You know, I think that if you want to know who someone cares about, look who they fight for.
Harris's ambitious agenda, much of which would have to be cleared by Congress, calling for a federal ban on price gouging of groceries, up to $25,000 in down payment assistance for first-time homebuyers, a tax credit of up to $6,000 for families with a newborn, and capping the cost of insulin at $35 and other out-of-pocket prescription drug expenses at $2,000. Meantime, Donald Trump holding his own rally in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania today after spending the week slamming Harris and the Biden administration's handling of the economy.
Kamala Harris is a radical California liberal who broke the economy.
And drawing fire for these comments, saying the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor, is, quote, much better than the Medal of Honor awarded to war heroes.
That's the highest award you can get as a civilian. It's the equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor, but civilian version. It's actually much better because everyone gets the Congressional Medal of Honor, that's soldiers. They're either in very bad shape because they've been hit so many times by bullets or they're dead.
Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, defending the former president.
I don't think him complimenting and saying a nice word about a person who received the Presidential Medal of Freedom is in any way denigrating those who received military honors.
Trump now plans to go back to Pennsylvania on Monday to deliver another speech on the economy. It will be his attempt to counter-program the first night of the DNC here in Chicago when President Biden is expected to speak. Gio?
All right, Jay, thank you so much. And we want to remind you, ABC News will host the first presidential debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. It takes place on September 10th in Philadelphia's National Constitution Center, beginning at 9 p.m. Eastern, moderated by our own David Muir and Lindsay Davis, live right here on ABC and streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu. Mary?
And we cannot wait for that. And now to the Middle East, and hope this morning that a ceasefire deal is close between Israel and Hamas. ABC's Tom Soufi-Burge is in Tel Aviv with the latest. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Mary. Yeah, after days of talks, President Biden saying a Gaza ceasefire and hostage agreement is closer than ever. But the reaction so far from Israel and Hamas has been muted. This is not a done deal. This morning, with the war raging on in Gaza, President Biden saying a ceasefire and hostage agreement between Israel and Hamas is closer than ever, as key talks hang in the balance.
I'm optimistic, not far from over. Just a couple more issues, I think we've got a shot.
The US, Qatar and Egypt admitting specific details still need to be worked out. Those mediators hoping to finalise a deal as early as next week. A ceasefire in Gaza would help dial down tensions across this region. We witnessed the aftermath of a deadly raid by armed Israeli settlers on a Palestinian village in the occupied West Bank. The settlers caught on camera torching people's cars and property. One villager was shot dead. In this house, a lucky escape. Two young girls were seated here and here. They were rushed out of the house before a Molotov cocktail flew through that window. Miraculously, no one was hurt. But look at the destruction, and there's a burnt smell hanging in the air. The IDF saying they acted quickly to contain the violence. Ahmed disputing that.
They say they got here really quickly, the Israeli
military. No way. Savage attack.
A savage attack on civilians?
Yeah,
on people,
civilians.
On their homes, with children inside?
Yes.
And guys, Secretary of State Blinken is due to arrive here in Israel tomorrow to try and close out that ceasefire agreement. Overnight, President Biden warning all players in this region not to do anything that could undermine those negotiations at this critical time. Will?
Such a fragile balance, Tom, in Israel. Thank you for that. Now to the war in Ukraine, where a top Ukrainian official is saying that Ukraine's offensive inside Russia aims to persuade Russia to engage in peace talks. Now, this video from the Ukrainian military shows their forces crossing deeper into Russian territory. But even as the Ukrainians advance, Russia is closing in on a key city in Ukraine's east where residents are being urged to evacuate. Gio?
All right, Will, back here at home, a 23-year-old man is under arrest, accused of 2 alleged attempted child abductions right outside Detroit. Authorities saying both were just an hour apart, and both children were saved by Good Samaritans. ABC's Ike Ajachi is here now with this incredible story. Ike, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Gio. This incident is every parent's worst nightmare. A man driving around trying to kidnap children and teens in broad daylight. Now, in this situation, it was thwarted by the help of a couple of bystanders who were ready to jump into action.
This morning, a Michigan community relieved after 2 alleged attempted kidnappings believed to be by the same suspect were stopped by Good Samaritans, according to police. Alicia Swikowski was with her 8-year-old son and 7-year-old niece when police say 23-year-old Andy Bala pulled up in a car blocking Swikowski from the kids. Bala grabbing the 7-year-old off her bicycle and throwing her in the car, seen in this door camera video released by the Sterling Heights Police Department.
Because I was telling her to stop, wait a minute at first, and then I quickly shifted into go, you need to run, run, run. And I just got louder and louder, and that's right when he came up from behind her and scooped her up.
Swikowski says moments later, Bala drove off with her niece as she was hanging out of the car window, the car running over her 8-year-old son.
I was punched in the top of my head. He had one hand on her and one hand trying to get the wheel. I had one hand on the wheel trying to get his hand off of her, and we went back and forth.
That's when Swikowski says Scott Van Leuven stopped his car and intervened.
I literally pulled him out of the car and just held him against his car until police got here.
Police say nearly an hour earlier, the same man trying to abduct this 15-year-old when another bystander stepped in.
He asked if he could drive me home twice, and I refused both times, and I started walking off. He got out of the car, grabbed my wrist. He said, "I'm gonna mess you up."
And this morning, the mother of the 7-year-old, grateful.
I was just thinking in my head that if anything happened to my daughter, I would not be able to be here anymore.
Now, as for the young girl, her mom says she's doing well along with the boy. The suspect is charged with kidnapping, assault and battery, and child enticement, among a slew of other charges. A probable cause hearing is scheduled for later this month. Mary?
Just awful. We are glad, though, those girls are doing well, Ike. Thank you. In Florida now, a jury has convicted a white woman of first-degree felony manslaughter in the shooting death of her black neighbor. The shooting taking place during an ongoing dispute over the neighbor's children. Police say Susan Lorenz fired through her front door at A.J. Owens, who was unarmed and standing outside with her 10-year-old son. The all-white jury rejected Lorenz's claim she feared for her life. She now faces up to 30 years in prison.
All right, Mary, thank you. Now to the arrest in an alleged scheme to defraud the family of Elvis Presley by attempting to auction off Graceland. ABC's Phil Lipoff has more. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning. Well, this is a wild story. The Justice Department is alleging fraud basically on every level here, from fake names to a fake loan. They say the goal was simple: to steal the home where the king of rock and roll died 47 years ago. This morning, a Missouri woman charged with trying to steal the famous Graceland estate from the Elvis Presley family, potentially defrauding them of millions of dollars. Federal officials accusing Lisa Finley of creating the scheme, falsely claiming Lisa Marie Presley put the late singer's home up for collateral for a loan she didn't repay before her death in 2023. The DOJ saying that Finley allegedly took advantage of the very public and tragic occurrences in the Presley family for her personal gain. As part of the plot, investigators say Finley used fake names to fabricate loan documents and published a fraudulent foreclosure notice in a Memphis paper announcing a plan to auction off Graceland to the highest bidder. Beloved by so many, Graceland stands as a memorial to the life and legacy of Elvis Presley, with thousands of fans visiting every year. Just hours before the estate might have been sold, an unlikely hero stepping in to save the day.
Somebody said, "Are you Kimberly Philbrick?" And I go, "What is this about?" And they go, "Well, your notary was used in a document where somebody put it up for collateral."
Kimberly Philbrick is a notary public in Daytona Beach, Florida, sitting down with ABC News and telling our Eva Pilgrim that she never notarized the documents supposedly used for the loan and putting up Graceland as collateral.
When you saw the signature, what about it stood out to you?
That it looks absolutely nothing like my signature.
Do you feel in some ways like you saved Graceland?
If they couldn't get in touch with me, what would have happened?
And as the story began to attract global attention here, Finley allegedly tried to blame a Nigerian identity thief located over in Nigeria. Guys?
Oh, what an unbelievable story. All right, Phil, thank you so much.